Self-love is a word we hear a lot, but I think many people misunderstand what it really means. Self-love is not just face masks, time off, or doing something nice for yourself. It is much deeper than that. Self-love is self-respect. Self-love is dignity. And self-love is learning not to abandon yourself just to keep the peace, just to make other people comfortable, or just to avoid feeling guilty. Hi. Welcome to my channel, where we gently explore spirituality, inner growth, reflection, and reconnecting with ourselves. When people talk about self-love, it is often described as self-care, and self-care is important. Rest, quiet time, taking care of our body and mind, all of that matters. But self-care is what we do. Self-love is how we treat ourselves. Self-care is taking a break when we are tired. Self-love is not staying where we are disrespected. Self-care is looking after our body and mind. Self-love is knowing our worth. And self-respect is what we allow, and dignity is what we refuse to accept. Many of us are very loyal to other people. We help, we support, we listen, we forgive, we show up, we try to be understanding. But when it comes to ourselves, we often do the opposite. We ignore our intuition. We say yes when we want to say no. We stay when we know we should probably walk away. We keep the peace, but inside we feel uncomfortable, hurt, or exhausted. Sometimes even as though our light has dimmed. And over time, when we keep doing this, we can start to feel disconnected from ourselves. We might not even recognize who we are anymore, because we have spent so long trying to be who we thought we needed to be for everyone else. Sometimes we abandon ourselves to avoid being abandoned by others. One of the hardest parts about self-love is guilt. When you are used to being the helpful one, the reliable one, the nice one, the one who keeps everything together, choosing yourself can feel very uncomfortable. You can feel selfish. You can feel guilty. You can even feel like you are doing something wrong. But sometimes guilt is not a sign that we are doing something wrong. Sometimes guilt is a sign that we are doing something different. And if we have spent our whole life putting ourselves last, choosing ourselves will feel unfamiliar at first. Not wrong, just unfamiliar. Sometimes we keep the peace with others by creating a war inside ourselves. I know this because I have lived it. There were times in my life where I ignored my intuition because I didn't want to upset anyone. I didn't want to be difficult. I didn't want to be seen as the black sheep. So I helped. I stayed. I said yes. I kept going, even when something inside me was saying, "This doesn't feel right." And I told myself I was being kind. I told myself I was doing the right thing. But in reality, I was abandoning myself. And it took me a long time to realize that self-love is not just being kind to other people. Self-love is also being loyal to yourself. Something else that people don't talk about enough is this. When you start choosing yourself, when you start setting boundaries, when you start respecting yourself, not everyone will like it. Some people are used to the old version of you. The version of you that always said yes. The version of you that was always available. The version of you that put yourself last. And when you change, when you start standing up for yourself, when you start saying no, when you start choosing yourself, some people will not understand, and some people will not like it. You may lose friends, you may lose certain relationships, you may feel like you are walking a lonely path for a while. But that is also where you start to see very clearly the difference between the people who want the best for you and the people who want the best from you. Being the black sheep often just means you stopped betraying yourself. Self-love, self-respect, and dignity go together hand in hand. Self-love is how we feel about ourselves. Self-respect is how we treat ourselves. And dignity is what we refuse to accept from others. And sometimes this can be very difficult because we can love someone unconditionally and still choose to walk away. Not because we don't love them, and not because we don't have what it takes to go the distance, but because we love ourselves enough not to accept disrespect or to live without dignity. Unconditional love does not mean unconditional tolerance of being treated badly. Sometimes the most loving thing we can do, both for ourselves and for the other person, is to choose self-respect and dignity. And often, when we start learning self-love and self-respect, the next thing we come up against is boundaries. And boundaries can be very difficult, especially if we are not used to choosing ourselves. So next week, we will gently explore boundaries and how they help protect our peace, our energy, and our self-respect. If this feels like the right next step for you, I hope you'll join me. The truth is, many of us are much harder on ourselves than anyone else. We are our own worst critic. We replay things in our head. We think about what we should have said, what we should have done, what we should have done better. We carry guilt for things for years. We punish ourselves in our own mind over and over again. Sometimes self-love begins with something very small but very powerful, and that is learning to speak to ourselves with a little more kindness, a little more patience, and a little more understanding. Self-love is not loud. It is not ego. It is not thinking we are better than anyone else. Self-love is quiet. It is private. It is the choices we make when no one else can see. It is saying no when we mean no. It is walking away when something does not feel right. It is resting when we are tired. It is forgiving ourselves for being human. It is standing on our own side, even if that means other people do not understand. Self-love is a quiet decision to stand on your own side. Maybe self-love is not something we learn overnight. Maybe it is something we learn the hard way. And maybe that's why it becomes so important to us. So maybe self-love is not just about being kind to ourselves. Maybe self-love is about being loyal to ourselves, about self-respect, about dignity, about listening to our intuition, about not abandoning ourselves just to keep the peace. And yes, sometimes that path can feel lonely, but it is also the path where we find ourselves. And when we stop abandoning ourselves and start standing beside ourselves instead, everything begins to change. Until next time, love yourself deeply. If this resonated with you, please don't forget to like the video. You're also welcome to share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. I love reading them. And if you enjoy this kind of content, please consider subscribing. It's completely free, and it helps support the channel. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. See you in the next one.